Our speaker, Jennifer Sue, New Sleeping Beauty, the New Sleeping Beauty, Jennifer Sue.
When Beauty was born, she was just so adorable. She had apples in her cheeks and sapphire blue eyes and curly blonde hair. Her parents were just thrilled, and they wanted everybody to know about their new baby, so they invited the whole family for a christening party. And between the mom and the dad, they had 7 sisters of their own. The dad had 3, the mom had 4. And they were all lovely, kind, maternal women. So the parents wanted them to be the godmothers of Beauty. And in preparation for the christening party, Beauty's mother bought presents for each of the sisters. Well, I said they were all kind and maternal, except for one. The mother's eldest sister was a little bit cranky and prone to holding grudges. So the gifts were presented. 6 of the sisters got gift certificates to spa day. But the 7th sister always said that she thought spas were ridiculous and only trivial people went to the spa. So Beauty's mother got her a gift certificate to see a doctor who was an expert in removing warts, because she had a big wart on her nose that Beauty's mother was hoping she would have removed. Well, she was very offended, and she was fuming inside. But it was the last straw when Beauty was handed over to her, and the baby took one look at her wart and went, "Wah, wah." Well, the aunt stormed out, and before leaving the hall, she turned and she said, "I curse this baby. This family of women is terrible. All they care about is appearances, and they care nothing about the inside." Well, the parents and the aunts took this to heart. They didn't want Beauty to grow up to be a superficial woman. So they made sure to tell her, "You're so smart, you're so kind, you're so gentle and generous and caring, you're such a good person." And growing up, Beauty absorbed all of those kind words, and she really became those things. And in addition, she was a beautiful little girl. And her big passion in life was animals. Every stray animal that she came into contact with, she took in. And her parents let her because they adored her. But pretty soon she had dogs and cats sleeping in her bed and birds everywhere. And she was an animal trainer too. And she taught the birds to make her bed by holding the ends of her sheets and flying up to the top. And she taught the dogs to balance little treats on their nose and throw them in the air and catch them. The only thing is, when it came to training animals, she couldn't force anything she loved to do anything. She thought they had to do it out of love for her. So there were lots of naughty, stray male dogs who she couldn't get to stop begging at the table, and her parents just tolerated this because she brought so much pride to the family. She was an excellent student in high school, and she was the prom queen. She got straight A's. She volunteered at the ASPCA. She even started her own animal rescue group. And her senior year in college, she got accepted into veterinary school. And she went off to college, and she excelled there, and she joined a sorority. She volunteered in all kinds of different charities for animals and children and elderly people. And everybody at college thought that Beauty was a catch. She could have the husband of her pick. Well, she went to a lot of social mixers with fraternities, and there was one young man that everybody was surprised that she was interested in him. He joined a fraternity not to be charitable, but because he liked to drink beer and play video games with his fraternity brothers. The other thing he enjoyed was also hazing some of the new fraternity members. But when Beauty learned that he was an orphan and raised by his grandparents and they had passed away, she fell head over heels in love because she always had a soft spot for little stray dogs. Well, after college, they got married, and he didn't have any family, so they got married in her hometown, and all of her family came again, including her grumpy aunt who had cursed her. She came out of hiding to her wedding. And Beauty, being the gracious person that she was, she went around to all her guests and she gave her grumpy aunt a big hug, and she said, "I love you so much. I'm so happy that you came. Thank you. I haven't seen you for such a long time. It just delights my heart." And her heart was almost softened. But then her husband, Beauty's husband, whose name was Doug, he took one look at her wart and said, "Dude, I've never seen a wart that size." And again, the aunt just huffed off and left. And that was the beginning of their married life. Well, Beauty opened a veterinary practice, and it was half charity, half business, because she treated every animal that needed help, no matter if the owner could pay or not. And Doug had a very good job as a video game designer, and he got to work at home too. And Beauty would come home after hard days of work, and the lawn wouldn't be mowed, there wouldn't be dinner on the table, the bills wouldn't be paid. And she always did things in a loving way, and she would say, "Oh, darling, how wonderful it would be if I came home and the lawn was mowed. How wonderful it would be if the bills were paid, or you took the cars to be serviced." But instead, Beauty found herself mowing the lawn at midnight, paying the bills at the end of the month, and her husband's generous salary had mysteriously disappeared, and there would be new things in the garage like motorcycles and golf carts. Well, then they had a pregnancy, and lo and behold, Beauty had twins, and Doug was super excited. He was just so thrilled to be a father. He said, there was a girl and a boy. He said, "When the boy grows up and gets a little older, I have a pal to play video games with." He didn't wake up at night, though, and change diapers. In fact, if she turned on the light to change a diaper, he would groan and complain. Even though he stayed home from work, she would have to bring the children to daycare because he couldn't design his video games and test them out, play them if there were babies crying. So one day, Beauty comes home from work with a baby on each hip. She's exhausted, she had a bad day, a dog threw up on her. And what does she see? Well, there's no dinner prepared, no takeout even. There are beer cans and bottles strewn across the coffee table, empty pizza boxes, and she just breaks down and starts sobbing. And she says, "You're never gonna change." And he stood up really confident, and he says, "Beauty, Beauty, it'll be okay, don't worry." And she says, "What do you mean it'll be okay, don't worry?" He says, "Well, I've been keeping this a secret because I didn't want to jinx it. But the house is magic, honey. You see this coffee table? Every day when I go to bed, there's the beer bottles and cans and the pizza boxes that I leave. But when I wake up in the morning, it's gone, as if by magic. And you see that laundry basket over there on the dining room table? Well, every couple of days I bring my dirty clothes out and I put the basket on the dining room table. And my gosh, when I wake up in the morning, my clothes are clean and everything's put away. Honey, it's magic." And she's, "Oh." And she hands him both of the babies, and she turns around and she stumbles into her room and she throws herself on her bed into a long and deep slumber. And he tries to wake her up. He calls his mother and father-in-law. They could do nothing to wake her up. And pretty soon all of the animals gather around her to protect her, and they call the doctor in, and he examines her, and he says, "I think this is a coma brought on by disappointment and overwork, and I can't say when she'll come out of it." But they put her on a feeding tube, and they have a caretaker come in, and Doug has to care for her and turn her over and make sure she doesn't get bed sores, and she just sleeps and sleeps and sleeps, and the animals sleep and sleep and sleep. Well, meanwhile, Doug has to do everything that Beauty was doing, and there's no more time for drinking beer or video games. And the aunt, the old grumpy aunt, she hears about what happens, and she asks her sister, "Can I come over?" She secretly wants to gloat. But when she comes over, and Doug has both the babies in his arms, and he hands them to her, and they look up, and their innocent eyes, and they kiss her, and they hold on to her because they need that maternal love, her heart softens a little. And then she goes into the room where Beauty's sleeping, and she sees what she's done, and she cries, the first tears she's cried in 50 years. And one of them falls on Beauty's cheeks, and she wakes up, and she says, "Auntie, I love you, I miss you, thank you for coming." And she's then there at the house every day, and the children call her their favorite auntie. And what about Doug? Well, Doug now is tired every evening too. And at the end of the day, Doug and Beauty's favorite thing is to sort laundry on the bed and they take special care sorting the clothes of the children that they made together. And they're tired, but it's a good kind of tired. It's the kind of tired that's something like happily ever after, if you believe in that stuff. Thank you.
We can take a couple minutes to provide some feedback.